This is vk3sl and welcome to the evening session. This is a place where we indulge in nostalgia and musical discoveries. It's all about tone tests, of course, but we have a special mission to understand new things, and that's the way it's been for quite some time. Third year, I think we've been doing this on Friday evenings. And, of course, there's an afternoon session as well during the weekends. And actually there are other most interesting transmissions during the week as well. Well, I've just woken up, sorry to say. I sort of haven't got my full orientation yet, but that's what happens when with busy schedules and things. But we'll thaw out and we'll get into the zone. But I think this record will help me get there. It's a recording of Sándor Jossi and his orchestra, a Hungarian group, a bit of continental music from the 1920s. It's a track on a vintage parlophone called Polo, vk3sl. Testing. Oh, that doesn't sound very convincing, does it? Maybe we'll use our other system. Let's try this. Quaint is that? Farm court music from the 1920s, and a track called Polo with Sándor Jossi and his orchestra. Oh, I like that record. What's on the other side? I might just do a quick spin and find out. We'll flip the disc and check. Here we have Marionette's Wedding March. I reckon this will be just as novel. Sándor Jossi, Joszi. It's an early electric recording. It comes up pretty well. Our noise reduction system seems to have gone for a bit of a wreck. Maybe I can just try a restart. Here we have it. The computer has been rebooted and we're just waiting for it to initiate. Don't really need the noise reduction system, but we have it here, and it does make it makes a difference for fatigue, I think. Okay, looks like it's working, so we'll try it again, and we'll hear the other side. It's Marionette's Wedding March. Sándor Jossi and the orchestra. Slap the record on. The sound of a slapping shellac. Something like a bit of palm chord music. It really sets the scene. Now, that was Dejos Bella, actually. Santo Yossi was a pseudonym, and I was recording on Parlophone, and I looked it up, and it is listed here. And a recording was made in 1929. Now, what can I tell you about Dejos Bella? His real name was Leon Goldsman. It says here, Russian jazz violinist and bandleader. I would hardly call that jazz, but it's novelty music, and it's affecting. It's great. And it says here, he was born in Kiev and served as a soldier during First World War. Studied music in Moscow and then continued in Berlin, and he had a presence in Berlin, playing in novelty groups and this type of thing. And says as soon as the Nazis came to power, because he was Jewish, he had to get out quick, and he was touring at the time, and he travelled to Buenos Aires, where he remained for the rest of his life. There we go. Here's the story, and he died in 1978. The story of Dejos Bella. He made lots of records. I do see his name come up quite a bit, but I do like a bit of palm chord music. In fact, we've got another one on the table here, another parlophone. A little bit later, it says the Grand Symphony Orchestra, which could mean absolutely anything. No dear I who the Grand Symphony Orchestra were, but I reckon they knew what they were doing. And that's a recording called Champagne Gallop. Great name for a song, and it makes me think that a glass of champagne wouldn't be a bad idea. Champagne Gallop, and that was the Grand Symphony Orchestra. Light music to kick off the session today. Shortly, in a little while, about 15, I'll dial up Zoomomatic, and we'll look forward to having Frank's company. And I think we're going to look at Art Blakey for a bit tonight. I've got your list there, Frank, so thank you for that. And we'll listen to a bit of Art Blakey, and then we'll follow on with an exploration of the music of Bohuslav Martinu, a Czech composer. And he is a really interesting composer. He had a very individual style. He didn't sort of fit into any particular school. And he is a composer who I've been listening to a lot this week. So we'll, hear some of his music later on. Okay, another sort of pseudo light classic. In fact, it's the music of Mr. Beethoven, and one of his more popular tunes, I suppose you could say, or staple light music track. What is it? It's The Ruins of Athens, Ludwig van Beek, and it's the Vienna Phil, I think, yes, with Carl Alwyn. I think we've got it in check. vk3sl testing. That was the Vienna Phil back in the 1940s, and their take on The Ruins of Athens. Not the most inspired work by Beethoven, but it's one of those evergreens that does light music proud. It's good. All right, we have another one from the same era. This one is with Andrei Kostelanetz and his band and his orchestra, and a rather novel take on a bugle called Rag. I think it's on a Columbia 78, and I reckon we just have to switch this, and this, and we're ready to go. vk3sl testing. Andrei Kostelanets and the orchestra, and his take on a bugle called Rag. And we are testing here on 160 and on UHF and streaming online. So if you want to be entertained, have a look on YT and you'll find a YouTube channel dedicated to these missions. And I'm slowly thawing out. It's been one of those days, but that's the way of things. That's okay. It's just life. And it seems like a year since I was in here last. It's crazy stuff when life takes hold. But no whinging. What we'll do is put on this is well, I don't know if it's interesting. May not appeal really. It's very personal, but it's a disc. It's an acetate that sort of turned up in the files here. It's unlabeled, and it's someone's personal recording, as a disc that's been sent home somewhere. So I don't know if it's a soldier or a. It's probably wartime fare. Well, I really don't know what the context of this is at all. But it is definitely 1940s. That's all I can tell you. But I'll play a bit of it, and it's a personal message. And I just think it's a sound of the times, and it does tell a story of sorts, although it is very personal. So I reckon we've got it ready to go. I'm just going to remember which channel I've got that in, because the hole in the record is far too small. I've had to sort of lever it on, so it's a bit of a manual enterprise. But I think we have success.
Well, darling, this will probably give you a surprise. I hope it is a pleasant one. As I am unable to be with you and our dear little men for Christmas, I am taking this wonderful opportunity of conveying firstly my greatest wish is to be with you all again. If not soon, for next Christmas, God willing. As you know, darling, my thoughts are always with you, but they will be more so at Christmas, if that is possible. I guess and hope Gary is with you listening. This is your good old dad, son. I hope you are a good boy for Mummy while I'm away. A little birdie told me that you love Terry and play with him in bed. Is that right? The little bird also told me that Terry can walk. I'll bet you taught him. I hope that is true. What is poor old Pat going to do now that you have made Judith your playmate? You give Judith a kiss for me. That's a good boy. I wish I were present, love, to see Gary's eyes light up when he heard my voice. I hope it doesn't upset him. I hope it won't be long before I can give him a real surprise by talking to him in person. Now you know my voice is impossible. I am fortunate in having well-known radio announcer Doug Elliott to sing the appropriate number, White Christmas.
Okay, well, there we have it. What I'll do is I'll just flip the disc. There's more to this, and we might find something a bit more interesting on the other side. It's a really heavy record. It's on a steel platter, acetate. Part 2. And wartime fare. The problem with this record is it just doesn't sit properly on the table. But we can try. If I can get it reasonably flat. We'll try side B. Whoops. In the groove. vk3sl.
I'm also taking this opportunity of conveying my Christmas and New Year greetings to my mother, Pop, and all at home. Although I cannot be with you in person for this Christmas, I feel almost certain for the following, so be prepared. Not that I need tell you that. I hope you will convey my greetings to Glenn, Lionel and family. Auntie Mona, Uncle Cal and family, wishing you all a Merry Christmas. Now, love, please convey my best wishes to all at 607. Lockreen and dear little Joan. Mary, Tom and family, also all city relatives and friends. Well, darling, my time has ended, but my thoughts will never. A big kiss for our little men, not forgetting your dear self. Wishing you a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
We'll meet again, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny day. Keep smiling through, just like you always do, till those blue skies drive the dark clouds far away. So will you please say hello to the folks that I know? Tell them I won't be lost. They'll be happy to know that as you saw me go, I was singing a song. We'll meet again, don't know where, don't know when, but I know we'll meet again some sunny
And a Happy New Year to all. Love, Kevin.
listening to vk3sl test missions on 160 and on UHF, and we're slowly getting organised here. It's a slow PC today, so we'll have that sent out to you in a moment there, Frank, and we look forward to dialing up Zoom and catching up and having a Blakey session. That's going to be good. Well, we're still waiting for it to go through the motion, so we'll hear some more light music, I think. So let's defer. Let's have a listen to more Champagne Bubbles, and with the Grand Symphony Orchestra, whoever they may be. A track called Champagne Bubbles and the Grand Symphony Orchestra there. And I just had a quick chat to Frank on the phone, and we're sort of slowly getting organised. We're going to try Zoom, but it may not work tonight. There's a few PC issues at his end, so we'll give it a go. And I think we have the system running at this end. Better do a quick switch across. There we go. And so that's up and running, and if that doesn't work, we can easily defer to 2 meters, so then we have a contingency if need be. Alrighty, what can we do? I'll just have to wrestle this record off the platter. We'll find something else to play in the interim. What else? Oh, should we have a little bit more Beethoven? We could. I'll grab a few more records, a handful here. And what do we have? Honey Musk, Jimmy Shand in his band. Money Musk. Oh, okay. Scottish country dance in strict tempo. Well, that'll get us into action. Or shall we have Coming Through the Rye? There's 2 tracks on this. Or here, Honey Musk, I think. Money Musk. I wonder if Mr. Musk is listening. Maybe. All right, let's have Jimmy Shand and the band on a parlophonium. Oh, wait a minute. I've got to do it this way today. Here we have it. Okay, it looks like we've got Frank on Zoom, but we'll just check and see if it's working. So Frank, I can see your microphone icon, and it looks like it's on, but do we have you in situ? Maybe, maybe not. Perhaps not. Perhaps, yeah, we did assume that, we did think it probably wouldn't work, because it involves a bit more sorting, but yeah, that's okay. We can check, make sure that's all happening at this end. Got that switched in, and yeah, it looks like we haven't got action there. Not to worry, that's all fine. We can easy defer to 2 meters real radio, so that would be absolutely fine. So we can definitely do that. So we'll stand by. We've got a little bit of another minute or so of this track. vk3sl. They did it.
A little Scottish skip.
Yes, indeed. Welcome. How are you, Frank?
Thank you very well. This is VK3JR on 2 meters.
Yeah, cross-band duplex with 160 and UHF, of course. That's 438.725.
All of that. Who needs Zoom?
Yeah, that's right. Zoom. These digital platforms.
Digital whoosy, what's this?
That's right.
We don't need it.
We don't. We've got it sorted, Frank. We've got it sorted. That's fine.
Yeah, sorry about that, Steve.
No worries. It's all good. Yeah, no, Zoom works very nice. I mean, 2 minutes works perfectly. So yeah, we're sorted. I think all going. It's taken me a while to thaw out today because I fell into a deep sleep, and as usual, I woke up at 11:20.
That's excellent. You must have needed it.
I think I did. And yeah, when you wake up and something's sort of about to happen, you get this sort of existential sense of who am I? Where am I?
No, it's quite weird. It's
Yes.
it's surreal, as you say.
I remember waking up and thinking something is about to happen, something important that I'm going to do. Then I lay there for another 2 minutes. Thought I really better get up now. And then,
See what day it is.
that's right. And then I suddenly thought, my God, it's 25 past now. So, yeah, anyhow, that's okay. We're here and we're sort of in the zone.
I'm ready to go. I've had my extra fiends load.
Oh, very good. Excellent. It's a good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so that's all excellent. We're just sort of getting a few things switched around here. And, yep, what I might do then is just cancel the Zoom.
Yeah, I'll turn the business off too.
Yeah.
But I'll wait till you put on a record.
Yeah, that's fine. We can find a disc. And, there's an update. I don't want updates. Now, yeah, we can find a record. Now, I wonder what it wasn't much information, unfortunately. I was hoping there might be a bit more of an actuality to that home Christmas
it
recording.
was very touching, really.
Yeah, it was. It was.
I wonder if he got home.
Yeah, I know. That's the thing. You just wonder. Definitely wartime. And I don't know the situation, whether it was, I mean, he mentioned the radio announcer.
Doug Elliott.
Doug Elliott.
You know, supposedly Doug Elliott singing. Now, I have never heard him sing.
Right.
But had I heard him sing, I would have imagined him to have sounded nothing like that.
How interesting. Really? So I wonder if that was, I don't think it was done live. He must have done it off a recorded off, but it didn't sound like he had it. It sounded like he was live with him, didn't it?
It sounded very like that.
Yeah.
I wonder if Doug went up there to fight.
Well, I wonder. See, there's probably a bigger story there. It's just a pity we don't get any context, but I suppose they weren't able to give any context, weren't they?
Not at all. My father-in-law was in Darwin when it was being bombed.
Yeah.
And he couldn't tell his wife
Right.
He wrote lots of letters,
Yes.
but he had to be very guarded in what he said.
Indeed.
And looking back on them now,
Hmm.
as we can, because he kept them all,
Yes.
there are lots of very, very hidden, almost code messages as to what was
Gosh.
going on. She wasn't able to interpret them, but he sort of hinted at things being not as good as they should be and
Yeah.
stuff, you know.
Sure. Yes, it is moving hearing. You just wonder if he ever got to see his infant son and what happened. Yeah, gosh. So there's a sort of an oblique sort of reference to things, I suppose. Yeah, well...
Sounded very homesick.
Yeah, he did. You could hear it in his voice. Yeah, it's very moving. Well, I haven't really thought about the next step. I'm trying to get sorted here with Art Blakey, and we've got the track. I'm looking forward to this because I really enjoyed our little Art Blakey section last time.
So impressed with him.
Yeah, last week, it's funny how when there's all these new things happening, it really displaces time. It feels like it was a year ago last week.
Actually.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just been really full on week. Anyhow, not that it's a problem. It's just funny how your perception of time sort of is a lot of it's about how we interact with other things.
About when things are happening, time stretches out.
It is, that's true, and it's the groundhog thing that makes time sort of move so quickly. But anyhow, that's okay. We'll get there. And so we've got Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers and Jody. Now I'm not sure. Some of these have got Wynton Marsalis and others don't. It doesn't mention Marsalis on Jody here.
Don't worry too much about it.
I'm keen to know, though.
I didn't actually find it. The only way I know its existence is that it's on my CD.
Oh, okay. Oh, here we go. But here he is. Here's Marsalis with the track, but I don't think it doesn't mention Art Blakey on this one. That's interesting. Well, there is another one here. There's Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers and Jody. So maybe I'll play that.
Play that, and very, very possibly he's on it.
Yeah, it's a good... Let's see. I'll just get some more information here. Recorded at Kimball, San Francisco in 1985.
Yeah, that sounds very, very like it.
It does, doesn't it? Well, look, we can give... It's a long track. We might play a bit of it and then just sort of get the flave. And then and maybe I'll do a little bit more checking on and seeing if we can dial up some more. So just getting things organised here with the YouTube system. Here we go. Dial up. and Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. So geez, this band was going from the 40s right through to the 80s. Amazing.
Constantly changing personnel.
Okay.
So these are where stars got mentored on their way.
Wow, that's really great. Yeah, but it's fascinating to hear his name associated with so many jazz greats. You know,
Absolutely.
it's just a list of them. Well, look, here we go. Art Blakey and the Jazz Messengers. Jody's the name of the track. We'll play probably about 3 or 4 minutes of it, maybe.
That's fine. Just get a good taste.
Yeah,
of
we'll
it.
get a good taste of it, and then we'll do a fade and then move on. So let's have a listen. vk3sl testing.
vk3jr.
and they'll do a fadomatic at that point, and we're
Very
listening.
boppy, isn't it?
It certainly is very boppy. Yes, very splashy, big cymbal sounds, and
Oh, yeah.
I think
he's got it all up, doesn't he?
he certainly does. Yeah, big drum kit sound, and yeah, look, that's sort of the next generation, really, isn't it? Sort of, it is very boppy. I was listening for that bass line. I was trying to lock into the bass line.
It's very, Coltrane and Parker and stuff.
Yeah. They use chord extensions which are so extended that,
Sometimes quite often I can't really follow it.
it can sort of push the edges of credulity a little bit sometimes. But look, that was fine. I was able to find the bass line. If I can find the bass line, I'm okay.
No, that's my only hope.
Yeah, that's right. And I listened to the piano as well. But nice to hear. And of course, Art Blakey had been playing drums for generations. It opened with a great solo. I mean, he was really doing some adventurous stuff there.
Well, he was really going with it, didn't he?
Yeah, he certainly was, setting the scene, and then they all came alive. And I don't know who was in that recording. It's from 1985.
It's pretty late.
Yeah, it is fairly late. There's a number of very similar recordings. And there's an early one here too of the Jazz Messengers with Thelonious. It's off a 1958 mono LP.
That'd be good.
Yeah, so we can give that a bit of a sample-matic and see what's happening with Thelonious Monk. Now, I can't sort of differentiate tracks on this. So we'll go with the first track on the LP and just sort of ride with that for a bit. It seems like it's not letting me find any more.
We get a good flavour and then fade it.
Yeah, we can get the flavour. Now, on this, we've got Thelonious, we've got Spanky DeBrest on the bass, and we've got Art Blakey on the drums, and on the tenors, Johnny Griffin, and trumpet, Bill Hardman. There we go. So, it's on, what's the label? It says Atlantic. All right, well, we'll go with this for a little bit, and I might see if I can find that other site that we were listening to last week. And see if we can dial up a few things on that as well. Let's have a listen to Art Blakey and Thelonious. vk3sl testing. There we go, Art Blakey and Thelonious Monk in full flight.
Certainly
On
was.
that recording, it's off a LP someone's uploaded on the tube, and it's called Art Blakey's Jazz Messengers with Thelonious, and great solos. And I love the way Thelonious, those chords, they really give sort of structural points in the music, don't they? It's like
I think he's totally unique.
yeah, it's really interesting, and he doesn't need to do much, but it keeps things moving, and it's
Oh, he absolutely does. And I just love he's got his own way of thinking.
yeah, I think it's a very unique take on reality.
It is, and there are other aspects of his life which follow the similar pattern, I think, a bit. But he a lot of people don't like him.
Sure.
But he was an unusual. Sometimes he would, in the middle of playing something, he'd stand up and dance around a bit, and then come back to the piano.
Okay.
Had some unusual. He was an eccentric, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. But I like the way he places those chords. It just has a way of allowing the music to breathe.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think that's good because it can sound very busy, this type of jazz. It can sound sort of frenetic and it can, energized, and to have a accompaniment that sort of allows the music to have space is great.
He had a very interesting life, if a bit disjointed.
Yeah.
He was befriended and taken in tow by a very rich woman, one of the Rothschild women.
Okay.
And she was a bit of a black sheep Rothschild, but she loved jazz, and she appreciated good jazz, and she spent a lot of money helping jazz people.
Okay.
And she kind of took him in and supported him, really. And she was certainly his patron throughout most of his life.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I imagine someone of his kind probably wouldn't have operated so well in the real world.
He had his difficulties. Luckily, he had a wife who stuck with him.
Yeah.
And I think at least one child.
Oh, right. Okay. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah. No,
we had a very good doco on him in U3A, the Leighton Fad.
Okay.
Very interesting life.
Great. We've got another one here. There's another Thelonious Monk, and recording from 1951. So we're going back, sort of working backwards a bit here. And this one is also with Art Blakey as well. And this is from that Deep Groove Mono site.
Oh, yes.
It's a fantastic site. There's so much material there. I haven't even begun looking at it, to be honest. And it's another complete archive unto itself. So
it makes you conscious of not being able to live long enough to soak all this up.
You need 10 concurrent lives to to make sense of it.
Right.
You do. It's so so effective. But look, here we go. It's a track called Just Me Now, is the name of it. And it's an original Blue Note 78, I think. It's an early one. Yeah. And from 1951. So, we'll have a listen to Mr. Deep Groove Mono. And, Thelonious and Art. vk3sl. There we go. The music of Thelonious Monk and Art Blakey. And very atmospheric. Great colours on those chords. He certainly had a way.
He runs his own race, doesn't he?
Yeah, he certainly does. And no, I always enjoy Thelonious. I like the way he punctuates. Yes, he does that really well. And it's not sort of, it's in a way it's sort of diametrically opposed to people like Teddy Wilson and Art Tatum.
It's kind of, you don't know really where he's going to go.
That's right, exactly. Sort of leaves you in suspense.
Sure, he knows sometimes.
Yeah, this is it. And
he kind of gets it right, doesn't he?
Well, he does, and it's sort of, that's the thing about great art, really, is that it sort of plays with your expectations. Yeah, it draws you in, and then we're not quite sure where it's going. So you sort of, you get sort of in suspense in a way.
Well, that's it. It certainly keeps you all ears, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I always like a bit of Thelonious, and there's so much of it there. In fact, just about his entire corpus, I reckon, is on the site.
Oh, this is absolutely amazing.
It's really good. I love hearing these recordings on 78 too.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just sort of sounds authentic.
Bit of nostalgic hits.
Yes, absolutely. A bit of
crackles?
hiss and crackles and just, it just sort of sounds like you're in the club. Yeah. Okay, well, look, what we'll do is we'll go for the gear change. I'll just move the chair forward and see if we can and have it another unique space, and this time the music of Bohuslav Martinu.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so this Czech composer, he was born in 1890 and died in 1959, so that was his space. And he spent the first part of his life in Czech, and he was one of these sort of late starters. And he was sort of kicked out of music school because he was different and didn't comply. It's quite an incredible story, really, that he really didn't have much success at all early on. He couldn't even get a teaching degree.
Good heavens.
Yeah, it just didn't work for him. I think he was a fairly sort of reasonable person. I don't think it was because of behavioural issues, but it was just that he didn't toe the line stylistically with his playing or his compositions. So he was sort of on the outer pretty early on, and it was only after he was playing violin in the Czech Philharmonic that he started writing compositions when he was working in the orchestra, and they took his music on board and then people realised that he had this extraordinary gift. And he wrote so much music. He wrote music every day of his life, really, and there's literally thousands of compositions, and they're just about almost all good. So it's a staggering output, and so this is the point of interest, that his music's sort of been discovered all the time, and suddenly it's jaw dropping. Something new turns up. I mean, these are pieces written sometimes nearly 100 years ago, but it's fresh and it's unique and it's new. Because they're only just sort of getting into it now. But he was incredibly prolific, and he had to write. That was his need.
Driven.
He was very much driven by the need to write music, and he sort of went through a few different stages. And so I was going to mainly concentrate on his late stage, which is where his music became quite sort of ethereal, quite hallucinatory, and it sort of had this quite remarkable ambience. But the early stuff is also interesting, and I thought it might be good to kick off with some of his neo-Baroque compositions.
Oh, right.
He started writing music in
very early.
Yeah. So in the 1920s, when he was beginning, he wrote in the neoclassical style or neo-Baroque style, and some of these are just so out there, so unusual. So I'm just going to do a little bit of dialing and lining up, because I didn't quite get that far with this. We are being organised, so it's not a big deal. I've just got to make sure I get them in the right order.
Right.
So yeah, there we have it, because otherwise I get behind with things. So I've got a system here, but it just means that I've got to get the first step initiated. Here we have it. Yes, it's a work called Promenade for flute, violin and harpsichord.
Well,
it's quite short. We'll just hear one movement of it. I'll just hear little snapshots, because the works are quite long generally, so we'll just sample things. But how's this for a bit of neo-Baroque music written in the 20s? vk3sl, testing. we go. Promenade for flute, violin and harpsichord, written by Bohuslav Martinu, Czech composer who we're celebrating, acknowledging, listening to tonight, and early work.
I thought that was shades of Prokofiev classical symphony.
Yes, indeed, very much so. In fact, the music of neoclassical style was very much about symmetry and order, and and you can definitely hear similar type of phrasing. Definitely, certainly had a resonance with the early work of Prokofiev. Yay! So nice to hear the harpsichord. And,
Oh, lovely. I
it's
do love the harpsichord. I know it's not as expressive as the piano, but look, it has its place.
yeah, it certainly does. I like it in that context, and and as in the continuo line with a bass line, I think it works really well in Baroque music as well.
It does.
I think I've worked with many harpsichordists over the years, and I always enjoy the association, and it's very clear, it's very percussive, and it adds a nice edge to the sound.
It's the edge that I love. I think I love the penetration of it.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've got the Bach 48 on piano and on harpsichord.
Yes.
Because they sound quite different.
Yes, they would. Well, that's right. Yeah, I find it harder to differentiate the line on the harpsichord
Oh, it
here.
definitely is.
But
There's
look,
no question.
but of course you just tune in, and it's fine, and it's all very valid, and it's nice to hear the what was Beecham's line, the copulating skeletons.
Two skeletons copulating on a tin roof.
That's right. Only Big Beecham would come up with something like that.
One of Tommy's best, that one.
Yeah, well, his very best ones, he said to the poor cellist in the Queensland Symphony when he was out here. He said
So you say it.
All right, I'll say it. This is. I hope no one's going to be offended. He said, "My dear, between your legs, you have something that could give pleasure to thousands, but all you do is scratch it." He said. To the lead cellist.
Thousands of men, actually.
Yes.
Hope order it down.
Yes, that's right, that's true. So there we have it. Thomas Beecham, we digress. So let's have a look at some more. And he started writing, he was very inspired by jazz styles in America. I don't think he went to America, and he lived in America from the 40s onwards. But in the early days, he was in Paris, and there was a lot of jazz in Paris.
Well, it certainly was.
So
The French love jazz.
they did. So he
Still do.
Yeah, he jumped on the bandwagon, and he wrote quite a few jazz-inspired pieces, including this one. And it's called it's not sort of jazz as we know it, like I've been listening to. It's early jazz, but it's called the La Revue de Cuisine. So yeah. Music of the kitchen or something.
Yes, that's it.
And so we'll have a listen to a bit of this, a live performance, so we might need to just find our place with this. Here we go. Just getting it lined up. Live musicians, here we have it. They're on stage, tuning up, ready to go. I'll play about a few minutes of this. And incidentally, you're listening to vk3sl and vk3jr. We're testing on 160 and on UHF while the musicians are getting organised. A YouTube performance of Martinu's Review of the Kitchen. heard the first movement of the Review of the Kitchener Jazz Ballet, written by Bohuslav Martinu. So, an example of his early period, and great writing for chamber ensemble.
Yeah, very lively.
Yeah, and just full of textual interest and jazz flavour.
Certainly was. There's a lot of syncopation there.
Yeah, definitely. Yes, he was certainly well versed in the essence of early jazz and what it represented at that time.
Ravel did some of that sort of stuff too, didn't he?
Yes, he did indeed. Ravel did, and who was the other composer? Oh, of course, Gershwin was in the fold, and
He was coming from the other side, wasn't he?
yeah, Mio, Darius Mio is the other one.
Oh, yes. You played some of that.
Yes, we did emissions on Mio a while ago. Yeah, that's it. So anyhow, an example of Mr. Martinu in his earlier phase, and he sort of moved in slightly more. I think he sort of moved out of the neoclassical vein and developed a more personal style, I suppose you could say, in his as things moved. And he wrote. I'm sort of concentrating at this point on his chamber music, but we'll hear a little of his duo for violin and cello. So I'm just going to do a dialomatic on this one. We'll just hear the last little bit. There's a beautiful cello cadenza, and then it rides out. But this is a work of extraordinary complexity for the players. Really difficult music, but they do it well. And another live performance. So let's have a little listen to a part of his duo, violin and cello, and it's a live concert. Now, just need to find the right spot here. If I can just, there is a cello cadenza, which is remarkable. I think we've got it here. That was some achievement.
Boy,
Playing that piece.
That cadenza was incredible.
It was. It very.
Double stopping.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and just flights of imagination, but very, very well written for the two instruments. And I think he's following on from Ravel's duo. He wrote a duo for violin and cello around the same time as Sonata, and I think he's sort of following on with his own take on the medium. But I just, as a string player, I marvel in that writing. I just think that it just shows such great understanding of the tonal matching between the instruments, the way that they sort of layer up and complement each other, and it's very coherent and remarkable. So I think that's a piece I have heard it before. When we were living in Prague, I got a CD of that duo, so it's been on my radar for a while. And I was going to mention that Alex is probably listening tonight, and Alex popped around during the week and had dinner with us, and we caught up with him.
Very good.
And he's very keen to meet you.
I'm very keen to meet him.
Yeah, so...
we must arrange it sometime.
Yeah, he wants to play something on the cello, so...
I'd love to hear it, of course.
Yeah, he's a most remarkable musician.
Yes, I understand.
Yeah, so we'll see what we can organise. So Alex, I did mention to Alex that I'd play something for him, and that'll be the offering, I think.
Oh,
and I was going to play a snippet of the cello sonata. I suppose I could.
You could do it?
I could. We've got time. I'm just mindful of maybe just a very short bit of the cello sonata as well, if I can find it now. I've just got to do a quick little dial up here. Where it is? Here it is a little snippet of the cello sonata. Excuse me, being a bit disorganised with this one.
You're fine.
Here we go. This is a young fellow, a young cellist in his early 20s, and he gives a little talk actually beforehand, but he plays the first movement. I'll play just a bit of this. I've known of this work for some time. In fact, I want to play this. This is one of my bucket list pieces I want to play before I play anything. Yeah, exactly. Before I stop doing missions, I want to play this piece. Kate and I had a chat about it the other day, and I'm going to order the music. I thought I had the music here, but I haven't, and it's on the order list. But I just love this piece. He wrote 3 cello sonatas, but this one here really does it for me. It's a work he wrote in the early 1940s, just after he went to America. In fact, the fellow gives a little talk about it, so we can let him explain. Young cellist in a competition, Heifetz competition. But we'll hear him explain. It's called Stars of Tomorrow, Festival of Concerts from 2015.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nicholas Mariscal. I'm 22 years old, and I am from Tucson, Arizona. I wanted to tell you a little bit about myself and how I think it kind of relates to what I'm playing for you this evening. One of the things I'm really passionate about as a musician is learning and performing music that is kind of less than standard, that's not necessarily part of the standard repertoire, and that's a little less known and less often performed. I think if you've been coming to a lot of the Heifetz concerts recently, you've heard a lot of Bach at the Temple House, you've heard a lot of Beethoven, a lot of Brahms, all the greats, and that's awesome. You probably haven't been hearing so much Martinů, I think. In fact, this might be the very first Martinů that's programmed this season. And so the piece that I'm playing for you tonight is Martinú's second cello sonata, which is absolutely one of my favorite sonatas written in the 20th century for the cello. And it was written in 1941, and it was one of the very first pieces that Martinů wrote after he fled to the United States to escape the Nazis, who were basically overtaking much of Europe, including his native Czechoslovakia. So this piece, I think, is characterized, or at least this movement, is characterized by some very, really expressive melodies that are kind of like folk melodies that kind of remind me of something that are probably Czech folk melodies, but there's also this incredible sort of rhythmic drive and kinetic energy throughout the entire movement that just makes it, I think, fascinating. And so I'm really, really excited to share this piece with you guys, and I think you're going to love it. So thank you.
right, the music of Martinu, his the first movement from his cello sonata number 2, and dynamic performance there from the Heifetz concerts. So there we go, young cellist in full flight, and it's a work that inspires me no end. I want to play it. I really want to play it. So yeah, I might have to wait till I retire to have time to play it, but it's on.
It's quite a lot to learn.
It's a lot to learn. It's very involved, but maybe I could do it for my 60th. I did the Ionescu Sonata for my 50th.
Did you?
Maybe, yeah. That's what we did at the prom a few years ago.
Did you record it?
Yeah, I've played it on the mission's early days when I first started.
Sure, I was involved in there.
Oh well, yeah. I've lost the file. But yeah, if I did that for my 50th, I always wanted to play the Ionescu Sonata. But this, I reckon, this might be my 60th project.
There's a lot to it, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. There's a lot to it. It's very well written for the instrument. He had a really deep, innate understanding of the instruments he was writing for, and that's one of the things that makes him a great composer. He doesn't write the impossible, and he writes in a way that allows the full expressive potential of the instrument to be revealed.
Being a string player himself would help.
Yeah, I think so. But look, that is just, I mean, it's difficult to write music for cello and piano because it's hard for it. Often the sonorities sort of can fight against each other, and you to create two independent lines
Sure.
to be heard.
Complement each other.
Yeah, so you have to be very mindful of the textures, and he does that really, really well. It's just beautifully written work, superb writing. So yeah, it's on my bucket list.
Very good.
Yeah, another one from him. I was going to fade that, but I couldn't. The others I'll just give smaller examples. Otherwise, we'll be here all night. So look, I'd like to play a little bit of this next. This is a memorial to Lidice, which is a really, really terrible, tragic story. During the war, Lidice was a village north of Prague, I think, and the Nazis, the story is that one of their cohort was murdered by the resistance. Who was it? I've got it here somewhere. I was reading about this before, the Lidice massacre. Yeah, I think it was Reinhard Heinrich. He was a Nazi figure, and he was murdered. And as a retort, Hitler decided that the township of Lidice would be completely levelled, and everyone in the village would be killed.
Oh my God!
So it's just one of those just ghastly stories of everyone was massacred, and I think some of the kids were farmed out and given to Aryanized, and some of the women were sent to concentration camps. But it ended up, and all the men were shot. And it all happened on one day, and then they levelled the city. They got rid of the town. They got rid of anything that existed there. It was bulldozed and moved, and then they sowed crops over it, so it didn't even exist. It's just such a terrible, callous, horrible thing. It's one of the greatest, most terrible affronts to human. I don't know, how do you describe something like that?
It's beyond description.
It is beyond description. It's just so terrible. Anyhow, being from his homeland, Mr. Martinu was in America at that time. He fled the Nazis, and he wrote a very powerful piece in memoriam to the people of Lidice. So it's really beautifully written. It's not sentimental. It's tragic, but he has a very personal way of expressing the depth of his feelings about this issue. So let's have a listen to just a snippet of this. But just it's so moving, this music. It's just extraordinary stuff. called Lidice, Memorial to Lidice, written in 1943 by Martinu, and a very personal reflection on one of the terrible tragedies of the Second World War. So, but really, there's something quite profound about his writing, and in the way that it sort of evokes the grief and the sadness without being sort of over sentimentalised.
It's not in the least sentimental, is it?
No, not at all. Which is sort of
tells it like it is, but just you can feel his pain, can't you?
You certainly can. It's really sensitive. There's something really. I've listened to that a couple of times this week, and I feel really drawn to it.
Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, but just beautiful colours in the orchestration, but and it has a simplicity and it's sort of a quiet lyricism about it as well. Yeah. Anyhow, there we have it. That's an example of Martinu's middle period. In his later years, he started his compositions became really, really interesting because he started to develop a very, very individual musical language, and which he created sort of dream states or hallucination states. And I think he started to inhabit more of a withdrawal in his own life, and I think he became very preoccupied with just sort of observing the world.
Yes.
And so there's something sort of his music almost becomes naive or simpler in some respects than the works we just heard, but he creates these magnificent textures, these soundscapes, which I find just so compelling. And so we'll hear a couple of these works now, and one of them is it's called the I'm just going to try and dial it up so I can get the proper name for it. It's the frescoes of Piero della Francesca. So it's sort of a sound evocation of these frescoes. But the first one is, I'll just play the first bit, it's just this haunting nocturnal dream state. It's fantastic, and it just sort of, I don't know, it floats, this music. So see what you think. I'll just play a first little bit of this, and we'll get the experience. vk3sl.
vk3sl.
I'll take a fade at that point. And so really unusual music. It's different. It's different to anything I've ever heard, really.
Yeah, same.
It's like there's two pieces sort of layered on each other or something.
Yeah.
Yes, but it works. I mean, it's obvious, but there's something. I don't know. There's an undercurrent and a pastiche effect, and I don't really know how he does. I don't think a lot of people know how he does it. It's something. It's just comes through evolving, I suppose, and just finding a very personal voice. But I just find that sound world really compelling, and it's just full of colour and movement, and it's morphing, and it's very kaleidoscopic in its harmonic colour textures.
Well, I guess it's his impression of the fresco. Do we know what the fresco actually is?
Look, it's a good question. Now, it doesn't actually tell me here, but it could be interesting to know what the story behind it is. It's a work that's only recently been sort of brought to the fore, and so I can't answer that. I don't know what fresco it is. It just says the frescoes are Opera della Francesca, so maybe it specifically alludes to sort of religious iconography, I wonder.
They do. I mean, I think that would very likely help in understanding what he's really saying.
Yeah, for sure. No, I acknowledge that. That's true. It would. Yeah. So most interesting. Well, there's another bit from that same movement that I was going to play, if I can quickly find it. Yeah, here we go. And this is quite menacing. It's got a different. He doesn't use heavy brass in the way that the Germanic composers do. He doesn't sort of have that weighted, heavy, big, thick, textured brass. It's something light, and he almost uses brass like woodwind. It's fascinating. There's something going on here that's really, there's a different concept to traditional Germanic Western music, and it's very hard to put finger on it, really, but it is worth acknowledging. So have a listen to the way he uses the brass textures here, but there's something unsettling about this one. This is the third of the frescoes.
Oh, yeah.
vk3sl.
vk3jr on 2 meters.
I just find myself compelled to this music. I can't stop listening to it. It has a really magnetic effect,
Right.
and I think it's something to do with his use of rhythm and the way that there's lots of things. It's orchestral colour and
Certainly plenty of that.
and the lyricism. It's very apparent, but also the unrest with
That was very unrest. What's the word? It's the word
yeah.
disturbed almost.
Yes, that's right. Menacing, something. Yeah, and he uses those sort of mosaic figures and metoric rhythms, and he layers them up, and it creates this sort of surging effect, and I just think it works really well and never sounds congealed. it's
airy in the sense, isn't it?
Yeah, it's certainly got a an openness to the sound. So that's an interesting work, and it's work that's sort of come to light quite recently. The frescoes, and I'll just give another couple of very quick short ones because it's getting close to our finished time.
Okay.
But here's another one called The Parables. Now,
Right.
this one's the Parable of Navir, whatever that means. I don't know. I haven't looked into the deeper background to these.
Yeah.
But it's but have a listen to this. Okay, I'll fade it there because we will go too late otherwise. But it's The Parables by Bohuslav Martinu, who we're listening to his music tonight. Bit of a celebration of this Czech composer who's gaining a bit of notoriety of late. They've been re-releasing a number of these late orchestral works. And yeah, very much an individualist. You can't put him into any school at all. That sound world is something that's very much his own, and that's always something of great interest.
Finding this music sort of belatedly, a lot of it hasn't been recorded.
Yeah, we've lost you there. I think you might be just a bit off frequency, perhaps, there, Frank. You able to just check in? You there?
Yes, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yeah, that's fine. No worries.
I knocked the knob.
No, that's fine.
I was just wondering if a lot of his stuff probably hasn't even been recorded.
I don't think so. I think a lot of it's is still sort of being discovered at this point in time. There's quite a lot of discussion about his music and its points of intrigue and its individuality and its tone colour and the use of
lots of tone colour.
There is, and the use of syncopation is very, very clever because it always has an undercurrent. It's always moving. It's sort of surging. It doesn't become static. It's not like impressionistic music, which just sort of, which I love as well for different reasons, but which sort of has its own sort of cloud.
Yes, it is a cloud sometimes, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's right. And that's a part of the thing. It's just a wash of sound, and
the wash,
and that's beautiful too.
Yeah.
But there's something about this. It's going somewhere.
Sort of more pungent in a way.
It is exactly. That's exactly it. It's so true. It is. It is more pungent, and it's. I find it just sort of. Yeah, it takes me on this journey. I'm just going for a ride because there's something new happening all the time, and it's interesting and it's organic and it morphs into something else. And a lot of heavier Germanic music, it's really hard to hear how the music morphs. It takes a lot of concentration to sort of hear its journey. But I find this very easy to listen to. I just find I can follow the line it sort of speaks in that way. But look, another quick example. This is one called estamp or prints, and as in pictures.
Yes,
and
not Prince.
Yeah, not
the royal.
Not the Prince Henry.
Not the Prince.
Now let me find the. I'm just going to dial this one up. I was going to play a little bit of the last movement of this. Yeah, just the Poco Allegros. Have a listen to some of this too. It's magic stuff. Really is. vk3sl. heard the final movement from Esther by Martinu.
Plenty of rhythmic interest there.
It certainly is. Yeah, it's sort of micro-episodal, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. It's got several little chapters to it.
Yeah, I find myself sort of travelling along and just inhabiting these spaces. I find it easy to access this music for me. But yeah, it's nice. And the other thing I find is it never falls into despair. There's something sort of positive about it. Yeah, it doesn't sort of, it's not super, it can be a bit menacing and a bit sort of troubled, but it
rescues itself.
It seems to, yeah. That's the other thing I've noticed.
Yeah, it does.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyhow, so look, a bit of a journey, and that's a few examples of the late music of Martinu in his final phase, and we sort of heard a few other things along the way, including the neoclassical and jazz-inspired writing, and
A bit of ground.
yeah, we certainly have, Frank. And thank you for thank you for sharing the journey.
Thank you. It's always great.
And thanks to the listener. If you've hung around this long,
Listener, yes.
Yes. So we've a bit of a Martinu journey today. All right. Well, we'll wind up, I think, at this point.
Time to go.
Yeah, time to finish. It's late, and we should be back tomorrow. There are a lot of things happening here on the weekend, but I've reserved that time. So for the time being, we'll try and make it the afternoons keep working, and we'll find a new batch of shellac to indulge in. So
Good. I should be right for tomorrow. I'm going to a jazz recital on Sunday night.
Oh, very good. Oh, that'll be good. At the is it in town?
No, it's at a place called the Jazz Lab.
Oh, yeah.
Little intimate sort of place up in North Melbourne.
Oh, fabulous. Oh, I will look forward to getting a report on that one. It sounds good.
I'll tell you a little more tomorrow night.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, thank you, Frank. Thanks for hanging in there, and for your company. It's worked out very well.
Likewise, thanks, Steve.
Yeah, good. All right, we'll wind up now with just an excerpt from Martinu's last symphony. It's a part of this last phase, and again, it's music which is very atmospheric. So thank you all, and have a good week, and we'll speak again soon.
Likewise from JR.
Yeah, vk3sl saying cheerio.
A3JR saying good evening.